Welcome to another edition of Legal Quilts. Today is a Tale of Two Quilts. I wanted to do a hexagon quilt with a dark center and then radiating out. It's supposed to go darker, but I also got a lesson in values here. I used the Northcote Stonehenge gradations, which kind of gets some of the odder pieces here. So you kind of had dark here, but then you had the pieces that matched up that were light. I swear to you, they're the same, from the same cut of fabric. Now what I used was the Hexamajig Junior, which is by Went Quilting, and it's a neat little tool. You can see it's a half hexagon. And from this, you can make half hexagons, partial hexagons. All the cutting instructions are in here, and her cutting instructions work for lefties. And the great part is, this is a piece. This is just a half hexagon, as you can see right here. And you just sewed that to the next half hexagon. And that was your row, and then you sewed the rows together, so all you have is straight sewing. None of the Y seams you usually get in hexagons. The problem is, the Hexamajig Junior is only a 2.5 inch half hexagon. So this isn't quite big enough. It's barely big enough for a knee quilt. It's really a large table topper is what it is. So it's not quite what I wanted. Now she does make other products. I don't have the Hexamajig, which is a little bigger. I do have the Hexamajig Mini, which is smaller. And it's the same thing. It just makes this small, it's a 2-inch half hexagon. That's perfect for your 2.5 inch strips, that sort of thing. And you can do all kinds of things with this. So they're really good tools, but even looking at the Hexamajig, it wasn't going to be big enough. So what I did is I went to my trusty Cricut, which will be an episode sometime, and I used that to cut some of the bigger pieces. They have, one of the basic shapes is a hexagon. And I couldn't figure out how to do it half, so I had to do full hexagons. But you know what? If you get big enough, the Y seams don't matter so much. So I made a really big hexagon. This is like a 10.5 inch hexagon. Okay, maybe a little smaller. I just blew it up. And then I just did 3 more rows around. Let me pull it this way so you can see. I did 3 more rows around. So it's the 1, 6, 12, and 18 around. That made the perfect size for a lap quilt. It is wonderful. It's just the size I wanted. Now this one is really proof of concept. So I just grabbed some fabrics. Didn't really plan except going out. You know, I kind of wanted a dark center and then going out. And I think it came out pretty nice to the point where I have other ideas of what I want to do. Now, finishing it, of course, you've got all these lovely pieces here where it curves out and you don't really want to force binding down there. So what I did was just knife edge quilting. I did that on both of these, where all you do, always a spare thread there, is instead of leaving the batting and backing out a little bit, you cut them right even with your top, and then you fold in your backing over the batting, and then you also fold in the top, and you just whip stitch them down. It's kind of slow going, but it's easier around curves. You can get your points done a little better, and you can get down here into the valleys between the points a lot easier. Plus, you only have to go around once instead of sewing the binding on the front, flipping it over, and sewing the binding on the back. I think this came out pretty nice. Like I said, I've got some other ideas. So I like, both of them have their uses. So the other one's a kind of large table topper. But this one's a nice lap quilt size. So sometimes quilting is a matter of trial and error. If you have a good idea, it doesn't work, try fixing it up and doing something else. So thank you for listening to another episode of Legal Quilts. Again, my items are for sale at legalquilts.onlineweb.shop. If you want to continue to support me making these episodes and quilting, go ahead and buy me a cup of coffee at ko-fi.com/legalquilts. And thank you. See you next time.